Doctors, a return to Lincoln. You know, we were talking about the doorway and everything where Billy the Kid made his escape. Well, I did not go in that last video, and if y'all remember, I just went up and down the road. Well, I found someone, I did not realize it, but he's been a Facebook friend forever, but this man is the authority on what happened here. So Brandon, with Ranger here, his service dog, is going to give us a lowdown on what happened back in the 1870s to 1881.
1870s to mid 1890s.
Yeah, it was a brutal neighborhood back then. It is, his title, it shows that he is a guide of the most dangerous street in America. What can you tell me about that?
Well, as President Rutherford B. Hayes told us all back in the 1870s, he said Lincoln is the most dangerous street in America, which is an accurate quote, because at that time in the 1870s alone, we had over 50 people killed on this street. You had 44 people shot to death, 6 people lynched to death, 2 people stabbed to death, even a man allegedly poisoned to death because his death was mysterious. And most notably, I think, is that a man was the first legal hanging here in New Mexico, and he was hanged twice to death right here, double hanging, which is a feisty story.
That is a story. Well, we're right here behind this part of the courthouse, and where do we want to start this little mini tour? We're not going to go far because both of us cannot go far. Even though I got the wheelchairs and everything, we're not going to do the whole tour. This is a condensed version, and I just want to spend time with this badass man right here anyway. He is a dear friend of mine. So, where do you want to start this? Inside, or
well,
talk about that?
We can start out here. We had the last 2 legal hangings occurred here, 1895 and 1896, and it was right out here. And a quote, one of the best quotes, is from a guy who was hanged. He was the second legal hanging, and he refused to say final words at first, and then they got adjusted and went to make their final move, and he said, "Well, goodbye, boys. God bless you all," which is a great last quote. And he was hanged to death right here. But people get sidetracked because they think, oh, Billy the Kid's the only person to ever escape at the old courthouse, which is totally not accurate. There's a guy who made a slight escape, but he didn't go out as fancy as Billy the Kid. He was captured later. There was another guy who made an unfortunate escape, and he was a soldier from Fort Stanton who had gotten into some inner fighting between some other soldiers, which I can testify might happen occasionally. And he gets so dangerous for this man that he's arrested by the Fort Stanton Army folks, and they decide to bring him here because it'll be more safe for him and Lincoln. 12 miles away from Fort Stanton, he's got some space to breathe. Only about the same night they bring him in and turn him in. That night, a handful of soldiers show up. It's said to be about half a dozen to a dozen men. They break him out of jail along with a couple of other prisoners. Let those prisoners go, don't care about them. They want the one guy, they take him, hang him to the closest tree right out here. You just picture and imagine what it'll look like. It would have been the first available tree they could. Tied a noose around his neck, strung him up right to the tree and let him hang, and then got to sit there thinking, probably drinking a little bit. We're like, this is taking way too long. He's choking and making noises, and someone's like, hey, we could shoot him. And so they have him hanging by his neck by a tree here, shot to death multiple times. Not a pleasant way to go.
No. There's been a lot of activity going on around here.
Surprised they're working on a holiday.
Dude. Here we are outside the old courthouse right here. Brandon got some more info about it.
All right, well, this courthouse is famous particularly for being the final escape of Billy the Kid in a very trailblazing movie-style manner. Well, before that, one of the bad guys Billy the Kid was fighting against was a guy by the name of Jimmy Dolan. Jimmy Dolan was the kind of guy who, just about a year before all this trouble happened, he went up to this young guy who was an employee of his and said he was having to defend himself against attack, and shot the man several times, saying it was self-defense. Only there seems to be more of the story because Jimmy Dolan was good friends with another guy that was here, George Pepin. George Pepin was of later age in life, and he was having an affair with a young teenage girl who was in her closer to 16 age, and allegedly her husband got word of their shenanigans and threatened to kill him, and so Jimmy Dolan was helping out his buddy, just went in and shot the guy. He claimed self-defense, and it was immediately dismissed.
Brutal.
Now, there's another famous regulator, you know from Young Guns, Doc Scurlock. Old Doc Scurlock was working right in a building attached to this property, and in 1876, or I might have the year off because all this noise is going off, sorry.
Hold on just a second, folks.
So Doc Scurlock is out here with his buddy, and he's showing off this new self-cocking revolver. You can look up what a revolver looked like in 1876 that was self-cocking, and there's very few of them. It's probably an English-looking revolver. Comes out, they're like, hey, that's a self-cocking one. Just a double action, as we call it now in the modern days. They're looking at this fancy pistol and trading guns and alcohol at the same time. And when you mix guns and alcohol, unfortunately, bad things happen.
They do happen.
And they're passing this pistol back and forth, and the gun goes off, shoots Mike Harkins right through his heart, right in front of Dr. Scurlock. He accidentally kills his friend right here on this property. Then you fast forward, of course, to 1881, and you have the final escapability of the kid, which happens here. Before that, he killed Sheriff Brady in town, which helped him get arrested, unfortunately. And just when the news of that came to this, which is the headquarters of Jimmy Dolan and his boys, the news is like, hey, Brady just got killed. This man who was in his later stage in life hears the news, and right there in that doorway falls dead, right there in the same spot we walk over. Now, you talk about it, that same night, close to that same night, is the army here in town, because the sheriff's been killed. They need to try and keep everything calm. So there's a soldier here on guard. This private here is making sure the bad guy regulators come approaching.
We're going to keep this story going now, but I want y'all to hear what he's saying. One more truck. Keep that thought. We're almost there. All right, y'all.
So this private's on guard. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Private's on guard, and he sees a rider coming in his way. It's dark, and he sees a shadow of a man. He's on a horseback. He's riding fast. This private gets panicked. He's like, hey, halt. No reaction. He says whatever secret password he thinks might help, whoever it's Bonanza or whatever you want to imagine there. No reaction. So he raises his gun. He's like, halt. Guy doesn't do anything. He fires a single shot. Right about the time the soldier and his horse hit right about that sidewalk line right there. They come this way, take a few steps. As the horse keeps going, the man drops dead right here, shot to death by his own friend. He is also an army soldier who's coming to deliver news from Fort Stanton.
Oh, wow.
Shot to death right on the same time. Now, you fast forward to 1881 again, and it's where Billy the Kid is locked up. It's the end of April. He's been here for a couple days. He's had to travel here. It's been a shenanigans of capture. He's right here. He's locked up in that top. See that top left window where we're seeing here?
Yes, sir.
He's in that room, which the window also faces out towards that direction. And that's the exact room where Billy the Kid was, in a jail cell, which was mostly him being chained to the ground in a very small room, where he's being watched constantly by Deputy James Bell and Deputy Bob Bollinger. Now, Bob Bollinger's a feisty name that we might recognize from movies. Always got a shotgun, slow-talking big guy, serious, which may have been so, because he was a guy who once saw a guy, shook his hand, held that same hand, pulled out his pistol, shot him in the head. That's the kind of guy Bob Bollinger was. So Bob Bollinger's been taunting the kid for almost a month with this brand new fancy 10-gauge Whitney shotgun. Fancy, big shotgun. He's been bragging, this is going to be the gun that kills you, kid. I'm going to be the one. So, when it comes evening time, on April 28th, there's other prisoners here who are being detained, which aren't really prisoners, they're just kind of being held for security. They're taken across the street because they're on a feud in Tularosa. They're taking across the street here to the Wortley, and they grab a meal with old Bob Onder. He's, of course, going to be the first one to eat. Big guy, he's probably hungry, right? And he is not one to mess around. So, through that window, the kid looks and watches that group of guys go to dinner, which they probably have done a couple of times. Only Billy the Kid, for some reason this evening, on the 28th, decides it's the time. I'm going to make my move. Maybe Bell has something different. Maybe he does something different. Doesn't have his boot tied or whatever you want to say. But he makes a move. The kid, it's said, goes down that stairway, which everybody can go up and down today. Goes down that stairway right out the back. You see the marker for where Bell is shot right there. But to your right is where that outhouse would have been. And the kid goes allegedly to the outhouse. Comes out. Goes back up the stairs. Nothing exciting happens. Only when I start going up that stairway, there's different theories on what happened. People say, some people have a theory there was a gun hidden in the outhouse, and he was lucky to find it because someone passed him a note. I have zero evidence that that's true, but it's speculated and worth mentioning. Doesn't make any sense because that outhouse was used by at least 9 other people who were in the building, and any one of them could have found the gun.
So and they were outlaws too.
Yeah. So you wouldn't leave just any gun there, which
right.
I don't believe that theory, but should be noted. Billy the Kid tells a friend later, when he's talking about the escape, says they went up the stairs, and he got into a scuffle, tried to get Bell's gun from him, and tried to get Bell to surrender, but he made a move, they had a fight, and a gunshot goes off. Now there's a guy who's working just on the same property, and he's out back. And he's like smoking a pipe because he allegedly just finished his garden and stuff. He's bagging his pipe, he lights that sucker up, and he hears up in that room, and you can hear it when you go in the building. You'll see, you can hear as studs and thumps and sounds go by. He can hear from outside that there's a struggle. He hears the gunshot and then a struggle. Struggle, and then he hears, like, I guess it's hears Bell, but somehow he could tell that Bell's moving down because only seconds later, Deputy Bell comes out that back door, steps left because he sees Godfrey Goss, takes a few steps towards him trying to say something, and he basically stumbles and falls with his face right in Godfrey Goss's feet. Godfrey Goss is going, oh crap, something bad has happened because the bad guy is now free. Godfrey Goss knows Billy the Kid personally, but that's a separate story. But at the same time, that gunshot goes off upstairs. Who can hear that gunshot but the guy across the street who's familiar with gunshots, old Bob Ollinger, and his prisoners he's got. So they go right outside the Wortley, out on the front porch where Ollinger can kind of keep an eye on them and they're not going to run off. And Ollinger starts moving right from that white fence there towards where this tree is almost. See that big tree?
Yep.
And at the same time he's moving that way, you have Godfrey Goss on the back side. He's moving that same direction to the same place because he's trying to tell Ollinger that the kid has killed the other deputy. Now, at that same time all this is happening, what's going on upstairs is the kid, Billy the Kid, he shoulders into this flimsy door, which even Ollinger blames the door, or not Ollinger, even Pat Garrett, the sheriff, later blames the door. And it's thought that the kid shoulders his way in, like he tells his buddy. They have that scruffle. He gets Bell shot. The truck drives by. It's a big tractor.
Yeah, it was.
So he's got Bell shot. Bell's sliding down the stairway, which Pat Garrett and the other sheriff that followed all admitted there was lots of blood on the stairway there. Bell stumbles out that back door, of course, he gets found. They're moving to that same point, and right then, the kid who shoulders his way into that little ammo room that they called the armory. And what's the first gun he sees right there is that big, shiny
Double barrel
shotgun, that double barrel 10 gauge Whitney. Big, fancy, expensive shotgun back then. And what's the first thing he grabs? That shotgun. Only he doesn't just grab it like people say and assume everything's perfect. He grabs it, checks it. It's of course loaded. He's got that. He's already got what he says. He took a gun from Bell. He's got that. He probably grabs another pistol there just to make sure, because he's going to have to make a stand upstairs for whoever's coming after him. So he's probably got 2 guns, which witnesses will admit seeing him later. What he's got 2 pistols. He's got that shotgun, and he grabs a Winchester. And everything's checked really quickly, of course, because you don't want to go out there with an unloaded gun when you're fighting. And he runs to that up there window, that window that's looking east out there. And he's getting to that window about the same time as Ollinger's getting just a few steps in front of that tree there towards the door for the old Ellis office there. And of course Godfrey Goss comes there and Ollinger comes there, and they're like 3-5 feet away, somewhere in there, close distance. And Godfrey Goss, with his probably reminiscent German accent he's explaining, hey, Bell's been killed, the kid shot Bell. And as Ollinger's processing this information, and some say he may have had his gun drawn, but there's no evidence he did. He's processing this information, and up in that window just above him, just looking out east out there, up in that window, he sees the kid standing there with that shiny double-barrel shotgun.
That's a woman driver. You don't see very many woman drivers. Okay, back to Ollinger.
So, he comes to that window, he looks up and sees the kid's in that window with that shotgun. Now lots of people like to say that the kid was like, hello boy, or like, let's dance, or oi Bob, or whatever. I don't know why the British accent, but they want to say he said something witty, but there's no evidence of what he said. Only we just know that the kid saw him and pulled the trigger off that double barrel and emptied a full 10-gauge barrel into Ollinger's face, shoulders, upper portion, and Ollinger falls right there where that marker is.
Wow.
Now the guy next to him, Godfrey Goss, who's the one who was trying to rat out the kid, he's like, oh, that's 1 barrel, it's a shotgun, I'm doing the math, probably the second barrel is me. So he turns to beat feet and go back to where he came from, and only the kid hollers out, he's like, hey, I'm not gonna shoot you, throw me something up here to break these chains, I'm gonna take care of you, just I'm not gonna shoot you, help me. So Godfrey Goss is happy he didn't get shot, so he goes looking for a little piece of metal, to which it's said he quickly finds and throws up to the kid. The kid's up here, and of course about that time the kid gets that piece of metal thrown up, he steps out onto this balcony just above us. Now there was no stairway on this left side of the balcony back then, but that balcony was there, and that same corner was there. And kid comes out with a rifle and that shotgun of Ollinger's, and he steps out right here, and he edges to the edge of this balcony where he can see Ollinger's body back down there towards where that stairway goes down in that direction. And he looks down there, and he's got that second loaded barrel of old delicious Ollinger's gun. Boom, empties that second barrel and destroys Ollinger even further because he's plainly dead. So the kid's frustrated still about this whole shotgun that's been taught him. So he smacks it, breaks the stock, tosses it down on the ground. He's like, you won't round me up anymore. I guess because you don't have a gun. But with the kid's got his piece of metal. Crowd from the town that's heard all this noise is gathered around. So the kid stands up there. He's not shot. He gives a speech about he didn't mean to hurt Bell. He doesn't want any trouble. If no one causes any trouble, he won't cause any trouble. Does anyone trying to stop him? Nope, this famous criminal, they just kind of look at him. They're like, all right, that's Billy the Kid doing something. And that's what they did. They let him go. And he gets that chain broken in half. Takes about an hour. He could break his leg chains in half. They're still on him, but that's enough for him to ride. Goss calls out that his horse is ready. He comes down right here, right near where we're standing. Gets on a horse. Somebody shakes his hand, and as he throws that leg over his horse, one of the chains went off or something, but it spooked that horse. And what people overlook in the movies is that Billy the Kid was right here on his famous escape, and he gets on a horse to escape the law. Only the horse immediately bucks him off, and there lies Billy the Kid after his escape with his face in the dirt, his butt on the ground, and the horse kind of giggling at him, and the horse trots off this way, to which Billy kind of giggles because the whole town's right here, and he's like, okay. And he sits up and he's like, hey, you, go get my horse. One of the hey yous is a prisoner who's already here, and he's like, hey, Mr. the Kid. I don't know if that was his exact quote. But he's like, hey, Mr. the Kid, I can't really help you because I'm on trial for like murder stuff and this isn't going to help me. And Billy the Kid's like, that's cool. You just tell him I made you do it. Which he raises his rifle and points it at him. The guy's like, so the guy's like, hey, I love horses and that one's my favorite. I'm going to go grab it so I don't get shot, really. And he goes and he rustles up that horse that's run loose, comes over, which Billy the Kid throws his leg over that horse and is about to take off, but there is a footnote. It's noted and not acknowledged by every historian, but told in many stories, is the fact that when Billy the Kid's getting on that horse and the guy had brought it up, Mr. Nunley, he's like, so you're going to steal my gun as long as you're escaping and you're stealing my gun? Which said Billy the Kid's like, okay, didn't know that was yours. Goes back up the whole trail. It's covered in blood and dead bodies. Back up there, gets the gun, comes back down and looks around, and of course people in the town are probably like, whose gun is that going to be? We're nervous. And nobody really gets in trouble. He gets on his horse, rides west into that setting sun directly, like a movie scene. You see the movies and you see the hills right
that way behind the construction truck. What an awesome storyteller this man is, and he knows the facts. We're fixing to go inside. So my tour guide is taking a break with his service dog. I've got my braces on. I'm just gonna eyeball around and look at this billiard hall. Also served as a courtroom. Listen to the floor, y'all. I've got my braces on so I can walk. But wow. They've done a lot of restoration in these old buildings, you can tell. It's more modern day. See, Deputy Bell. That was a man that was killed by a man right outside there. You can see his headstone over there that they put down. Oh wow, there's a picture of the room itself. Sure the hell was. That's wild. And that old-timey fireplace. So these were all the sheriff that was killed on the line of duty back then. Brady's cavalry sword. That is the real deal too, y'all. Here is the very first post office, y'all. And the ball. Look at all the scratching. Damn it, people. Isn't that cool? Very big. And these are the doors that Brandon was talking about. There's an old safe, y'all. Wow. Look how the wheels are starting to break apart where it's set and rusted. Wow, check that out. there's a Colt. And J.J. Dolan. He was a dapper man, wasn't he? A boot pistol. So these are supposedly the holes in the wall, right there. And up there's the drill. Let's go check that. Let's go see where Billy the Kid was chained to the floor. Okay, that's the last of the step there. Let my knees recover from this. This is the old armory. I love that old bed. Road bed. This is a courtroom. The history here, y'all. I mean, just think about how tough it was to survive back then. Wow, the jury box. And this is a window where he was talking about he was watching. Yep. Check it out. Oninger wasn't that big of a man. He don't look like he was that big. So that is Billy the Kid's arm that he was wearing. And there's where he broke it. I'll be damned. Okay, y'all. I am so glad that my carbon fiber AFOs are holding up to this right now. So here's part of the old jail cell, the first jail, what they called a jail. The Mason Lodge. Wow. Here's the marker of Oninger that Brandon was talking about. Brandon just got in the van, and we're going to go on down the road here just a little bit to another super historical spot. Okay, y'all? He's right there. This man knows a little bit more about downtown. We're right here in front of the old post office. And this was a general store at one time?
Yes, sir. It's the Tunstall store. Tunstall opened his store there in competition with the other group.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the Murphy Dolan group.
What year was
Constable
that?
McSwain. That was in 1877 that he opened that.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It was in the summer of 77. He opens the store, and its competition to right down the road, that building we were just in, was the store for the Dolan and Murphy faction. So he had two competing stores just down the
door
street.
for us here.
How you doing? Doing good. So, goodness, that was loud.
That was loud.
So if you go to that building on the other side of that church, and you'll see when you go over there, it's called the Convento. And in 1874, December 1874, this Texas family from Texas, Lampasas-ish kind of area.
Okay, we're back. The
So
Texas family.
Texas family, the Horrells get up here and they start causing some trouble, making tensions increase around Lincoln County. And 1st of December, 1874, one of the Horrells, Ben Horrell, is here drinking with his buddies. And they're getting a little rowdy right here in the middle of town, shooting their guns and stuff. Just being annoying drunks, especially in the Old West. That must have stood out. So the constable guy comes over. He's like, hey, you guys need to calm this down and break this up. We're not doing it in the middle of town. Just take it elsewhere. And they're like, okay. And about 2 hours later, gunshots start going off, because when you mix guns and alcohol, bad things happen. And that's what happens. They start getting rowdy down there, and this time the constable shows up with, it said he had claimed only 5-6 men went with him. Witnesses also saw the event, and they say that the mob was closer to 15 to 20. And these guys come down to this little shack by the river back there, and constable knocks on that door. He's gonna get them. He's got them busted. They're making noise inside this house, ill repute, if you want to get technical. So Warner's one of the guys, Dave Warner. He opens the door, and he sees this constable, and he sees a bunch of armed, not happy guys behind the constable. So he realizes that the gig is up, that there's trouble coming. So instead of being like, hey y'all, let's talk about it, he just pulls his revolver, shoots the constable dead right there, steps in front of the doorway. The constable falls dead right there. Now, the rest of the posse, they're not just like, hey, yeah, you killed our leader. They're really pissed off, and so they respond and shoot Dave Warner to pieces right there in the doorway.
Wow.
Which is in a small house, and if you've ever been in a small wooden house and bullets are raining down on it, it's a highly motivating thing to make you leave the house. And so out the back they go, however they could get out. They go out the back and run down to that river, which you can see, the same river. If you look down there, and as they run, they get shot and wounded. Both of them fall. Old Jack Gillen falls, and then Ben Horrell falls about 9 steps past him, and they both fall and they're shot and they're wounded. And they cry out, hey, we give up. We're throwing down our guns. We give up. And the mob walks up to these guys they're mad at, and there's no real news until the next morning. People are like, what was the gunfire we heard last night? And they walk up to the river right out there, and they find Jack Gillen dead, 13 holes in him, and Ben Horrell with 9 bullet holes in him. So the mob just basically surrounded and shot him to pieces.
Yeah.
Now the Horrell family, they're Texans, and most Texans, I'm not making a totally accurate, but pretty, I would say 90% accurate. If you kill a Texan and his family's there, they're not going to be happy about it. And that's what happened. The Horrells were pretty pissed, and they've got some buddies with them who are not great guys. They're kind of bad guys. And they show up later in December on the 20th, and there's a wedding party going on in that building down there that I was telling you about, the convention. And they tie their horses right on this side of the street, grab their rifles, walk up to that small building. You see it's small, and they get shots they can on the doors and windows that you could see, and they empty their rifles. Then they empty their revolvers, and giggling, walk back across the street, get on their horses, and walk calmly on their ride out of town inside that building was going on a wedding party, of course. It was a wedding party with innocent people from the town. 4 people killed, 3 people shot right there in that small building that's right there. Now, footnote to that story is maybe perhaps that opened the door for the devil, because on that exact same doorway that you're going to walk through right in front of it is where the first legal hanging in Lincoln, New Mexico occurred. And that was right there, a guy by the name of William Wilson. He walks up, he gets up on the hangman's platform, and it's alleged that the guy who hired him to do this killing was a guy by the name of Murphy, who we've talked about. Murphy happens to be the guy up there pulling the switch that hangs a person. And allegedly, Wilson is like, hey, kind of gives an apology to everybody, and then he turns around and face to face, he talks to Murphy. And Murphy's an ex-military man. And he says, now, Major, you got me into this, and you're the one who promised to get me out. His words are cut off because what does Murphy do? Flips that switch.
And drops.
Wilson drops, and he's hanged to death for 9.5 minutes. He's hanged. This town is packed with people because rightly so. They were not happy with this killing that Wilson had done. Wilson is put into a coffin right there near the doorway. Just kind of thrown in there. Maybe it wasn't closed all the way, or maybe someone heard something. Because this town is standing around talking about what just happened. A young lady in her late teens has peeked in on this corpse, and she sees Wilson breathing. He's still alive. So the town flips out. Half of them are like, you can't hang a man twice. He's legally been hanged according to the sentence. That's all you can do once. The other half of the town was like, no, he hasn't been hanged to death.
Right.
To which that rope was thrown back over his neck, pulled
And
up to
strung
that,
him up again.
right to that same news. He's hanged for 20.5 minutes. And hanged to death until he is for sure dead. He's cut down with the noose around his neck. If you pass that little town, Tinney,
Yeah.
he's buried about 50 yards outside of that building in a field. You can see there's about 6 graves there. He's one of those graves.
He's one of those graves. There's so much history, y'all. If you ever get a chance to come to Lincoln, New Mexico, come on over here and come on. You know, they're open on the weekends. What times do you volunteer around here? Is it just vary?
It varies. I was doing Mondays on here, but I had to take a break.
Yeah.
I'll probably get back to doing that in the near future.
There's other people around here that you can come in. There's historians ever throughout. There's another one that just walked into the old general store here. We're going to go in there and just look around. This man right here has gone way out of his way to give us these stories. Brandon, thank you so much for extending your knowledge of what you've learned. I love this man, y'all. Thanks for watching. I'm going to show you all more around, but we're going to wrap this up. We can go on for days with the stories here. If you're fascinated with history, look it up yourself.
That's right.
Take it from the Bowwiz. What's our adventures? No, we're still recording. We got no truck coming. Hold on just a second, y'all. He's making it.
Seems like we're in Detroit with this traffic. Crazy.
Pretty busy for a Monday, and it's President's Day at that, y'all. It's a holiday. And normally there's not much going on here in Lincoln. It's not one of the biggest tourist traps there is around New Mexico. So, again, if you get a chance, come on by. He's got one more story he wants to tell us about.
So let's go to April 1st, April Fool's Day, 1878. Tensions are tough. Everything's really tense between the regulators and the Dolan Murphy crew. And on April 1st, the night before, the regulators had come in and spent the night in the store behind us because it's kind of stormy, snowy-ish, rainy-ish. So they come in here for shelter. That next morning, they pack up their horses, get everything ready to go out of town because they've got to bring some supplies to some other guys too. And they're getting ready, and somebody is watching out and says, hey, here comes Sheriff Brady. Now there's theories that they plotted this huge ambush, but if you look at the wounds, on the sheriff, and if you look at the reported shooting positions, it was no ambush. It was a target of opportunity. Someone was in here and saw the opportunity coming across the street, so they acted. Deputy George Hinman is with the sheriff, William Brady. With him is old Jack Long, and you got George Pepin and Billy Matthews. These lawmen are walking down the street. Now, if you look at where that red fire hydrant is, from here to there, that red fire hydrant is right where Sheriff Brady was shot and killed. Now, they didn't intentionally mark it with their fire hydrant. That just happened to be located in pretty much the exact spot where Brady's shot. He falls. Hinman is right with him. He's only a couple steps ahead of him. He gets shot. He falls. Then more gunfire comes. It's said that Brady maybe falls to his butt and makes a groan, and more gunfire comes out to make sure it's finished. And that's what happens. And then, right as this happened, everything's tense. You got two of the deputies that fled right over here, and they're hiding about where that white little fancy thing is in their backyard area. And that's two of them. One of them went to the Torreon, which you just saw a thing about the Torreon. One went there. So the regulators are back here. Everything's tense. One regulator comes out through this gate, and he takes steps out to the street. Different sources don't credit him, but Fred Waite comes out. Witnesses who were there name him specifically, and Fred Waite comes out and empties his revolver still in Hinman as someone's trying to help Hinman get some water. This guy from a building down there, past where that yellow marker is.
Mm-hmm.
He hears Hinman call out for water, and he comes running to try and help him. And as he gets to him, that's about the time Fred Waite is stepping out and empties his revolver at him.
Wow.
Pretty much at across the street distance. To which the guy helping him is like, "Oop, I let go. I got to get out of here. Shots are coming," and he does. And Hinman's left right there next to Brady. Now, at the same time, and this is the event that all the movies and everything wants to focus on. It's said that Billy the Kid comes running out right to where Brady's body is, because Brady is said to have his rifle. Some people will twist it and say it was a pearl-handled gun. It was his rifle, because only days before the sheriff had put Billy the Kid in a different jail and taken his rifle to confiscate. So he's like flashing that rifle as he walks, so the kid runs out to get it. And it's said that as he does, another guy's out there with him. And the kid bends down, grabs that rifle, and it's said that one of the deputies over here, old Billy Matthews, sees him and takes a shot. It's also claimed by the guy who's in the Torreon that he's the one who pulled the trigger and fired. Either way, someone shoots, and it's said the kid falls down. Okay, whether or not that's accurate is kind of debatable, because it doesn't seem like he got shot as dramatically as many stories will say. If he was shot at all, he was nicked, but it seems more likely that it was the guy with him, old Jim French. And so they're wounded, or at least French is, and they come running back to this corral to get out of the shooting, get back to safety, to get on their horses. Which they get on and they're ready to go, only French is shot. Some people will say in the thigh, because he's miraculously standing like you and me, and they get shot like this, which doesn't happen. So he's wounded. It's also said that he's shot in his side, which is what I've been told by the historian Drew Gomber, late great Drew Gomber, who taught me everything. He mentions that he's wounded in his left side, and so he's brought across to where that McSween house area that we talked about, the escape. He's brought over there to get medical attention, while the other guys are like, "Hey, that's a you problem. We're out of here," and they take off riding.
Right.
And that's what they do. Only these guys, Matthews and Long, take a couple of shots trying to shoot him, and it's alleged that's when Long shoots French, not this dramatic thing in the street that people like to tell the story. It's more likely that he's shot from an elevated position in that Torreon as he rides by, and if you look at that distance when you get there, you're going, I mean, I could almost whack him with my gun if I was right there. So it's an easy shot. So he shoots him, and that's when he flees over to the McSween house to get some medical aid.
Oh, yep.
The rest of the guys are getting tired of the bullets, so Middleton gets off his horse, and he stands right in the street, and he starts emptying his Winchester like a machine gun through town, and it shuts these other two deputies up. The third one is kind of hidden off, and he's probably crying somewhere. Talking about pepping. But then they escape. This French is taken in here to the back room, which you'll see, and they've cut a hole in the floor. It's most likely that it was a loose board that the guy working here, Sam Corbett, had a little stash under. And so, with the panic and the adrenaline situation, he gets able to widen that enough for Jim French to lay under that floor, and you'll see where the hole is and how that floor is.
Okay.
And it said he lays him with a blanket on his back and a pistol in each hand, so he's bleeding out his side, pistol in each hand, and the floor set over him. And he hides there as everyone searches the town looking for him. They see the blood trail. They search McSween house twice, 3 times. They search this 3, 4 times.
They can't find him.
Can't find anything. Only said the next day, when everything's quiet, he simply walks out the front gate leading his horse, gets on his horse and rides out of town. Now many people will tell that same story and they'll turn it into Billy the Kid. Because there's a lady who lived here, maybe a Bolton Church, and she's told many stories. Some they believe, some are a little stretchy. But she says she sees Billy the Kid come out, and he walks out, walking his horse, and he gets on his horse, he gets down to the river, and about that time that he gets to the river, which isn't far, everybody starts going, hey, he's escaping, Billy the Kid, we gotta get him. And so some gunfire comes, and the kid's able to cross the river, get a little distance, and he sees everybody shooting at him. He knows he's out of range, and the story goes that he sees them and he's like, with a big grin, tips his hat, and then he gets back on his horse and rides off.
Arrogant.
Whether that's true, I don't know, but it's a great story to tell at a campfire.
Yeah, it is. Y'all see this smile? I'm drowning in history right now, and I'm really digging the history lesson. Especially coming from Brandon. Y'all, I'm gonna look around, I'm gonna take some more pictures of this place, and I'm gonna stitch them together, and we're gonna try to make a video vlog out of this. I've got a lot of content. We can go on for hours, but I'm gonna stop it right now. I think this is gonna be vlog number 9 in my series. So stay tuned, like and subscribe. I got more juicy shit coming, y'all. This wheelchair, I'm making waves around here. So, Brandon, thanks for your time, brother.
Thank you.
Wow, check this out, y'all. Brandon just gave me the lowdown on this, and he's got to go, so I'm just going to give y'all a quick tour of the store. And we timed it just right because she just opened the door back up. Back in the late 1800s, if you needed something, this is where you came. And back then, it wasn't just jump in the car and go to the store. No. She got all these buttons and stuff. Another big ass old safe there. The floor just buckles right here. Now here's the hole that Brandon was just telling me about, where he laid down in there and did his thing. Crazy. And that's the original wallpaper, I do believe, y'all. Look at the history. Them people had to freeze to death back then. They had fireplaces in every one of these rooms, but these rooms are so big, it's still, I don't see how they stayed warm. Little baby shoes. What a dapper hat that is. You can tell some of these exhibits look like they're repops. Even artifacts smell old in here. I like that. Different sizes of horseshoes. Oh, check out them ostrich. It sure looks like it. Original cowboy boots. If you do want a quiet museum tour, this is the place to go. I mean, this place ain't really thumping and there ain't overloaded with tourists. So you can actually get a little bit more slower, intimate, quiet view of everything in here. These are old tools, drills. Look at this old bicycle, y'all. Lots of big. Insane. It's got the same type of wheels as my wheelchair. I would have been a mechanic back then, so I would have had to do the oil from that. Yep. Chemical cart. That was a fire extinguisher, I think. Chemical cart, yep. Original carriages. U.S. mail carriage. Look how small that thing was.